Each Other is a podcast about the importance of human interaction. It provides reminders that we are not intended to live in isolation. Human beings need each other. The things about another that pisses you off and the things that take you over the moon are all opportunities to see through another's eyes, recognize their intrinsic value, and then look more deeply within ourselves to find the love that's always there. Welcome to today's episode of We Need Each Other. This is a very special guest. I know I say that all the time, but they're all special in their own way. And this woman, Bonnie Sadigh, is a very special guest to me because we just met recently. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Bonnie is the co-founder and chief operating officer at the Wheel of Well-Being, an integrative, holistic, and psychological wellness center. Bonnie is a master NLP practitioner, clinical hypnotherapist, EFT practitioner, relationship and certified life and success coach, and master time technique practitioner. You'll have to explain to me what that is. She is also a certified transpersonal energy healer from the Lionheart Institute. With an early aptitude for the arts, Bonnie graduated from Queens College of New York with masters in fine arts. Her fascination and curiosity with the mind and body helped guide her growing love of knowledge and service to others to pursue her dream of becoming a coach, public speaker, and a motivational blogger. She believes in the wholeness of each individual and strives to unlock their untapped potentials so that they can thrive and live life to the fullest. So all those things that Bonnie does, we see why we need each other. We need Bonnie because Bonnie's got a whole lot of stuff going on that she can give to us. Welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here with you today. And
I'm delighted.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm delighted to have you here because Bonnie and I met a couple, like 6 weeks or so ago. I don't know how long ago it was, maybe a couple months, because we were both on a panel, a women's panel together talking about healing racism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bonnie told a story, that really moved me. And I'm going to ask her to begin this episode by telling you this story.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So when I immigrated to the United States, I was 13 years old. I didn't know. I went straight from Iran to New York. I didn't know the culture. I didn't know the language. And as a curious 13-year-old, I would often, because I didn't have any friends, I would often wander to the streets of New York wanting to get to know the neighborhood and to get myself familiar with the culture. So one day after school, I wandered off and I started walking. We lived in Queens, and I was deep in my thoughts, and I kept walking and walking. I don't know how long I was walking, and all of a sudden I found myself in this very unfamiliar neighborhood. As I looked around, it was obvious that it's a Black neighborhood, and all of a sudden, me standing in that neighborhood brought so many phrases and so many advices and so many cautions that people were telling me that you need to be careful with certain neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. As a young girl, you don't walk alone in these neighborhoods because it's dangerous. And I didn't pay any attention to this until I found myself in that Black neighborhood that day. Mm-hmm. And when I looked around, for a second, fear came over me. And I wasn't sure what to do at that moment because all of the things that were told to me and was kind of in my subconscious mind was coming into the surface. And now I was feeling horrified. Mm-hmm. What do I do? Do I run away? But where to? Do I beg for my life? I didn't know how to beg for my life in English.
Yeah.
So as I'm standing there, I see this young, very built, very tall Black man approaching me. And I remember feeling my hands feeling a little bit sweaty and my heart starting to race. And I just froze there for a second. And he approached me and he was like, I could tell that he's with his body language, what are you doing here? And I took a piece of paper out of my pocket with my address, and I said, I'm lost. And I handed him the piece of paper. And then he looked at the paper. From the look on his face, I could tell that I'm ways off from home.
Mm.
So he said, with his hand, he motioned, can I drive you? I can drive you home. And at that moment, I was like, okay, this is, am I signing my death sentence, getting in the car with this black man? And then something came over me that at 13, I was like, stop it.
Mm.
You don't know anything about this man.
Mm.
And just because he's few shades darker than you doesn't mean that he's going to do you harm. So at that moment, I trusted. And I nodded my head, yes, and I got into his car. And he was such a gentle soul.
Mm.
Kept smiling at me, knowing that I was uneasy. Kept, pointing his thumb up and say, we're going to get home soon. He kept smiling and just, putting the music on. And I felt safe in that car. When we got home, I thanked him. And that man that I never saw ever again became my first American friend. And from that moment on, I decided that this idea that people are instilling in your head that you need to be afraid of certain people, you need to be cautious because of certain ethnicities, certain racial backgrounds, that to me was immediately, I wanted to fight it. I wanted to stand strong and say, you know what, this is not how I want to live my life. I don't want to live in fear. I want to trust people, not just because they are different than me in color, but because I want to connect with people from a soul level. It's not the color that decides who I want to relate to and who I want to call as a friend for my son. So that was the story of me firsthand experiencing prejudice and discrimination when I first moved into the United States.
There are so many little goodies in that story. First, out of curiosity, before I forget, who are the people that told you how to feel about whom? Whatever type of person.
Not my immediate family, because my immediate family is very, very open-minded. They embrace everyone with every color and every culture and every background. Some teachers, some distant family. I would hear it from just gatherings here and there, and just don't remember exactly who was telling me this, but definitely distant family and even some teachers at school.
Any media, anything that you were watching on television, perhaps?
Probably subconsciously. I don't remember watching that much TV at that time because I didn't understand it anyway.
That's true. You didn't speak the language.
Yeah, but probably subconsciously was, getting into my head that's how you need to be around certain people.
And the yummy thing for me about that story is that you stopped, you listened inside of yourself.
Yes.
And you took a shift and you knew your safety and your protection. That one thing, if people could operate through life that way, we would be living in a different world.
Absolutely.
If we would stop and listen inside of ourselves and know. And you know what, Bonnie, you and I both know it was no accident that you ended up on that path and had that experience, because it gave you a brand new experience of being in the United States of America.
Absolutely. I mean, all of us have some degree of biases inside of us.
Absolutely.
As you said, if I think the first step to healing discrimination is to look inside and see our own biases, to analyze that. Where are these biases coming from? Are they true? Am I just accepting them because my group tells me to accept it, because certain people are telling me to accept it? Am I operating out of fear? And then if we can substitute that fear with compassion and with love and with understanding, that is the first step to healing discrimination.
I love it. That's beautiful. So I'm curious, you are from Iran.
Yes.
Have you felt it toward you? Have you been in the opposite position in this country?
Very interesting. So in Iran, people look mostly like one another, except like few degrees of lighter skin and a darker skin. And there is a small minority in Iran that has blue eyes and blonde hair. And my cousin was one of those people. And we are about a year apart from each other. So we used to play a lot with each other. And we used to spend most of our free time together. And whenever we were together in a group, people would stop and turn to my cousin and say, "Oh my God, she is so beautiful. Look at those blue eyes." And I was like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old. And I remember it exactly, that feeling that, why is it blue eyes more beautiful than brown eyes or black eyes? And it happens so often that I started believing that I'm not beautiful, that there's something wrong with me because I have darker skin than her. And I would, as I was getting older, I remember I would tell my mom that I want long sleeve shirts. I don't want to wear sleeve shirts. And she was like, "Why?" And I knew, I didn't tell her, but I knew that I didn't want to show off my darker skin. And that belief stayed with me for so long, that because I'm a little bit darker shade than my cousin, I'm not worthy enough. I'm not lovable enough. I'm not pretty enough. And it was long into my young adulthood that I said, you know what? This is just crazy. This is just what people put into your head, believing something that is not true. So that was my experience back in Iran, when I felt a little bit of discrimination because my skin was like maybe 2 shades darker than,
And her eyes were blue.
And her eyes were blue, yes.
It's fascinating to me how that indoctrination of white being better,
yes,
is all over the world.
It's definitely all over the world.
It's all over the world.
Some cultures and some countries hide it better, but it's still, it's not that it doesn't exist in Western cultures or countries. It's just that they know how to maneuver and manipulate around it. It's there. It's there.
How did it happen? Do you have the answer? How did they travel all over the world and make people think that what they were was better than what anybody else was, and actually make people take that into their systems? And again, another healing point of what you did is, at some point, it took some years, but at some point, again, inside,
yes,
you went to know this is not true. A lot of people don't have that. And I'm sure that was not something that was taught to you, to go inside. It's just how you roll, because it's been that same thing for me in my life. Part of why I love you so much.
Oh,
it's just that there's an awareness of something inside that says, this is true, that's not true. And that you take it and you honor it. But it seems that the vast majority of people aren't listening to that because they're so pulled and guided by the outer world.
Absolutely. And they want so badly to fit into
yes.
a certain box I need to conform into this box, and I need to take on the ideas and the beliefs of this box in order to fit in.
Yes.
And they don't ask questions. I mean, I remember it was part of the way I was brought up. My father and my mother always questioned, so we didn't follow blindly, and that was a norm. When something doesn't feel right here inside of you, you ask questions. You ask questions about yourself, from yourself, and you ask question: why is this true? Why am I supposed to fit into this box? Why do I need to follow this doctor and be a certain way? So it's always asking questions, wanting to know more. And sometimes when you don't fit in a box, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Absolutely.
That part of you that is not fitting in the box, that is the part that is screaming and can connect, can have compassion, can have empathy towards others.
Yes, exactly.
So that's the part that you need to celebrate, not to force yourself into that box, but that part of you that is sticking out and is asking questions. That's the part of you that you need to celebrate and get in touch with.
So, as a woman from Iran in the United States of America, have people shown fear of you? Have people put you in a box because of your culture here in this country?
Yes. So fast forward to 1979 when the hostage situation was going on in Iran. I remember we were feared to call ourselves Iranian, and if people asked, I would say I'm Italian because I have blonde hair now because I have a lot of gray and I'm covering the gray, but I used to have very dark, curly brown hair. So I could pass for Italian. And a lot of times just walking on the street, people would say, go back home. And to me, home was here.
Yes.
And it made no sense that people would say, go back home where you came from. And that even to this day, after 40 some years of me being here, I think it was last year I was crossing the street and someone just stopped and said, why don't you go back to where you came from? And I just wanted so badly to say, how do you know where I came from? How do you know that
Absolutely.
I wasn't born? Just because I look a little bit different. I don't have blue eyes, so that means that I'm not. So, yes, I did fit, not in a threatening way, but in a more uneducated, I want to say, way. When I first moved here, I remember people asking me, do you have cars in your country, or you ride on camels, homes, or you live in huts? So all these kinds of questions probably came from curiosity, but in a way, an unintellectual, uneducated way of asking someone about their origin.
Yeah, it's true. As with Black people or people who come from the continent directly of Africa, I think still today people are surprised that they look like we look, like people in America look, or do you live in huts, and what are these silly questions? I can't even think of what they are because they're so ridiculous. But they still ask those questions. And 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine, Black male, was needing to find something on his GPS, and he pulled over, not completely into a parking space, but over out of the traffic, out of the way, to be, beneficial as far as not working on his GPS while he's driving.
Being responsible adult.
Being responsible. And a woman who could have just passed him by, white woman, stopped next to him and started calling him all out of his name. I just calling him the N-word and just all out of his name, and said, I can't wait to see you hanging from a tree. You know, Bonnie, what is happening? This anger, it's anger that apparently has been there. And now it's just coming out. And so we can say it's coming out for healing, because when you detox, all that gook has to come out, you know?
Yes. And I was reading an article, and it was talking about community violence, community trauma. And it was saying that when a Black unarmed man gets killed by a police officer, the trauma, it's not only for the immediate family and close friends to that person. It gets traveled to that community as a second-degree trauma. So the Black community, and especially young men, feel that trauma mentally, emotionally, and physically. And to live with that trauma day after day, I can't even imagine how painful that must be for our young Black kids that are growing up in this society. And what can we do as a society, as people, to ease that pain, to heal that pain, and to tell that young boy that he does matter. He is loved. He is enough. And I wish I could tell you an easy answer that this is
I know.
what you do. Yes. And I mean, I think every one of us, what you are doing now, it's just we need to keep the conversation going. We need to keep talking about it, not just because someone else got murdered and we got reignited and we remembered what to do now. This conversation needs to be front and center, needs to be talked about every day.
Yes. It's been a big frustration for me. I'm being honest. I've been honest on social media that, you know, I hear my people say, well, we're not trending anymore, and they've gone back to their lives. And I'm like, no, they haven't. But then it's apparently in many ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all
you know,
I mean, right after George Floyd, everybody on social media had posts up, and I mean, they were good intentions and good meaning behind it. But what happens now?
Right.
What happens now? Why are we quiet now? So it means,
why are we quiet now? You know, there's, you know, I'm actually doing an episode with a white man who I adore, who says that all white people are racist. And I go, you're not racist. He's like, we're all racist, you know, because we all have white privilege. And what I'm learning is I'm recognizing that white privilege is so deeply ingrained that oftentimes they don't recognize that they are saying something or being in a way that's harmful.
Yeah.
And they are intending to be kind. But if you can't see what's not there, and you're not trying to look more deeply at what's there inside of you, then you are upholding a system of racism.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yes, it's in all of us to some degree. Recognize it. And you know, it's not easy to go that deep and admit even to yourself that you have it. But it needs to happen. It needs for all of white people. We need that going inside needs to happen, even though it's painful because we are not used to seeing ourselves in that way. We say we are not, but through our actions or inactions, we are showing that we are.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not intentionally, but it's there.
Right. But it's there, and other people are being affected by it.
Absolutely.
And that's what has to be recognized. I don't know. Do you watch the TV show This Is Us?
I love.
Did you see the new season, the first episode?
Yes.
It was such a teachable moment.
Yes.
And I think every white person in America needs to watch that episode and really take in what's being said there, really take in what's happening there, because that's like the height of, I come from a loving family that cares about me.
Even in that loving family.
Yes.
He didn't know what he was going through.
No.
Black man.
No clue.
Even though there was love, even though there was acceptance, he felt uncomfortable to say what was going on with him.
Yes.
I think that was a brilliant moment.
It was.
Light into the eyes of white people, that how deeply rooted these pains are, that sometimes you can't even verbalize it. You can't even up to consciousness and talk about it.
Yes. And, Black people have not lived in a world where we've been allowed to be heard. We haven't been allowed to be heard. We could be speaking and you don't hear us, which is obvious when, that's the thing, when George Floyd was murdered, we're like, yeah, we've been telling you this for years, but it's like all of a sudden the eyes are open because of the connection to those eyes.
Yes.
George Floyd's eyes and the police officer's eyes. It was a connection to those eyes that shifted something. And so we are grateful for the two of them being that place of change.
Absolutely. And I remember when the demonstrations were going on, a couple of people were saying, it's enough is enough. It's one person. Why are they making such a big deal out of one person? There's so many white people are getting killed. I said, it's not one person.
Right. It's 400 years.
It's 400 years of this. And every time it's like you're stacking these negative emotions, these pains over and over each other. And when something again happens that triggers not only that immediate pain, but everything else behind it. 400 years of pain is bringing that. It's not just one person that died. It's the history behind it and the unresolved pain and agony that hasn't been resolved for all these years.
Right. Yes. And, even the recognition, like, that's one system in the country. That's one system. In every system in the country, there's racism. And, that's part of what my teaching is, to really recognize that a George Floyd or any police brutality or anything that you see that you go, oh, that was racist. It's not isolated. It all threads back. And, it takes tearing it all down.
Absolutely.
By going inside. Yes. And living from the inside out. We've been living so from the outside in.
Yes.
So I want to ask you again, just what kind of came to my mind right now. What do you witness as a person who is from Iran living in the United States of America about what goes on in your country, or what is thought about your country at this point in life?
Very good question. So I haven't been back in 45 years. And I still have deep connection with Iranian people. Since the revolution happened, all of our wishes was to get rid of this new regime. Now, when you say my country, I want to divide the government from the people. People of Iran are extremely hospitable. They're extremely compassionate, understanding, and they're good people. And the way the media and the Western cultures have portrayed them It's like all of Iranians are terrorists or anti-America or anti-West. Not so. If
Mm-hmm.
you as an American go as a tourist to Iran, they will smother you with love and compassion and
Mm-hmm.
hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think it's beneficial to countries and to the other governments to make evil of the government. I'm not saying the government is good, but uh, making the two the same is not the correct way of seeing who Iranians are.
Yes,
The government
exactly.
is very different than who the people of Iran are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
I,
not,
I find that's true in most countries because the media, boy, the media is the devil. I'm telling you. I used to work in media and advertising, but the media forms our views about everything. And it is so important to really get to know other cultures, to really know who they are. I remember the first time I went to Cuba, I hadn't even gotten into the country yet. I was giving my visa and my passport, and I heard it. They've been lying to us all these years. That I knew that I was going to have. And the people were, oh my God, so amazing, so beautiful, so wonderful. But I find that every place that I travel, the people are not their governments. Just here in the United States, even though it looks like with all the craziness that we're seeing in people, in general, the people are not their government.
absolutely. Very
Yes.
yes, yes, yes.
So I guess, the big lesson from our time together is number one, always go inside and listen because you're always being guided to what is absolutely the truth.
Yes.
And to spend time around other cultures of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you don't know otherwise.
Exactly. And I think for our healing to happen,
Mm-hmm.
we need to get uncomfortable. We
Mm-hmm.
stay in our
Say that again.
we need to get uncomfortable. That's
Yes.
the way. We tend to go towards what is familiar to us. And for any kind of growth, for any kind of healing, we need to get uncomfortable. We need to expand our horizon. We need to get to know other cultures, other people, other ethnicities. And really, once you get to know someone from a soul level, when you get to know someone deeply, there is no way you can hate that person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's only ignorance. It's only hearsay. It's only those negative beliefs and negative things that people are putting down your throat and through your mind that is stopping us from believing in the goodness of other people, except differences with beauty. Yes, we are all different. No one is denying that, but there is beauty in that difference. I mean, America was based on differences of different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
You're either, I think, true Americans are either slaves or immigrants. Or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's no other way that
yeah, right.
American.
That's right. Exactly. That's how you got here, one way or the other.
One way or another. So
Right.
it's time for the immigrants, the Black people, indigenous people to say, you know what, this is ours as much as anyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
It's enough allowing our voices not to be heard.
Absolutely.
We are here, we are staying, and we are making our voices heard.
Mm-hmm.
We matter.
We matter.
We matter.
We do.
All of us.
Yeah.
So this is what America is. All of us together. Black, brown, whatever.
And no longer allowing anyone else to define who we are.
Exactly. And not
we define ourselves.
And not believing it.
And not believing.
As young Black people, as young immigrants, not believing what they are telling us. That you are less than, that you're not good enough, that you're not enough. Not believing that. I think that needs to be taught to our young children, that they do matter. They they are enough. So that's the message that we need to repeatedly tell our young children.
Yes. And some of those techniques that you use, like EFT, is beneficial in that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
And hypnotherapy you do. And what was that one that I said, time something or
Time
other?
technique.
Yes. What is that?
So time technique is a very interesting technique. So any kind of negative emotion or negative beliefs that you have about yourself, like I'm not good enough, that I'm not good enough came from somewhere back in your history, an experience you had, something someone told you, an experience that you witnessed or you experienced. You made that belief your belief. And you go through life believing that you're not good enough. So what we do with time technique is we take you back on a timeline of where you are now, where your past is, and where your future is. And we float you back, we float you up to that first event, even if you don't remember it consciously, but your subconscious remembers. So you float back to that very first time that someone told you, you're stupid, you're fat, you don't deserve this, or whatever that was that you took on as your own belief. And we stay there in that event and get positive learnings from it. We reframe the meaning. And maybe someone told you that 20, 10, 5 years ago, but is it serving you now?
Right.
What other learnings can you take on now that can empower you to move forward rather than having you stuck in the past and not allowing you to reach or unleash your full potential? So it's removing the limiting beliefs that you have and reframing and substituting with empowering beliefs that can move you forward.
That's wonderful. We need you. All that stuff you're doing, we need it. So how do people get in touch with you, Bonnie?
So they can visit my website, bonniesadigh.com, or I would love it if they can follow me on my Instagram page, Coach Bonnie NLP.
Coach Bonnie
NLP.
NLP. Coach Bonnie NLP. I'm going to follow you myself as soon as we finish this episode. Bonnie, oh my goodness, I'm so glad to have had this time to spend with you. And we're going to have to spend time out in the world because we don't live that far from each other.
Absolutely.
We're going to be in touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love it.
I love it.
Thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I am grateful for my new friend. I'm so happy we met, our paths crossed, and cheers to many, many more. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us, Bonnie.
Pleasure. Take care.
We need each other.
We do.